The first sermon, Invocabit Sunday, 1522. The challenge of death comes to us all, and no one can die for another. Everyone must fight his own battle with death by himself, alone. We can shout into one another's ears, but everyone must be prepared finally to meet death alone. I will not be with you then, nor you with me. Therefore, everyone must know for himself the chief things in Christianity, and be armed therewith. They are the same which you, my beloved, have long ago heard from me. In the first place, we must know that we are the children of wrath, and all our works, intentions, and thoughts are nothing at all. To prove this point, we must have a clear, strong text, and although there are many such in the Bible, I will not overwhelm you with them, but ask you to note just this one. We are all the children of wrath, Ephesians 2:3. And pray, do not boast in reply, I have builded an altar, given a foundation for masses, etc. Secondly, that God has sent his only begotten Son, that we may believe in him, and whoever will put his trust in him should be free from sin and a child of God, as John declares in the first chapter, he gave them power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe in his name, John 1:12. Here we should all be thoroughly at home in the Bible, and be ready with many passages to confront the devil. In respect to these 2 points, nothing seems to be lacking or amiss, but they have been rightly preached to you. I should be very sorry if it were otherwise. Nay, I am well aware, and I dare say, that you are more learned herein than I, and that there are not only 1, 2, 3, or 4, but perhaps 10 or more, who have this wisdom and enlightenment. Thirdly, there must also be love, and through love we must do unto one another as God has done unto us through faith. For without love, faith is nothing, as St. Paul says, 1 Corinthians 2, if I could speak with the tongues of angels and of the highest things in faith, and have not love, I am nothing. And here, dear friends, have you not grievously failed? I see no signs of love among you, and I observe that you have not been grateful to God for his rich gifts and treasures. Let us beware lest Wittenberg become Capernaum. I notice that you have a great deal to say of the doctrine which is preached to you, of faith and of love. This is not surprising. An ass can almost intone the lessons, and why should you not be able to repeat the doctrines and formulas? Dear friends, the kingdom of God, and we are that kingdom, consists not in speech or in words, but in deeds, in works, and exercises. God does not want hearers and repeaters of words, but doers and followers who exercise themselves in the faith that worketh by love. For a faith without love is not enough. Rather, it is not faith at all, but a counterfeit of faith, just as a face seen in a mirror is not a real face, but merely the reflection of a face. Fourthly, we likewise need patience, for whoever has faith, trusts in God, and shows his love to his neighbor, practicing it day by day, must needs suffer persecution. For the devil never sleeps, and continually molests, but patience works and produces hope, which freely yields itself to God and finds solace in him. Thus, faith, by much affliction and persecution, ever increases, and is strengthened day by day, and the heart, which by God's grace has received such virtues, must be ever active and freely expend itself for the benefit and service of the brethren, even as it has received from God. And here, dear friends, one must not insist upon his rights, but must see what may be useful and helpful to his brother. As St. Paul says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are expedient. 1 Corinthians 6:12. We are not all equally strong in faith, Some of you have a stronger faith than I. Therefore, we must not look upon ourselves, or our strength, or our rank, but upon our neighbor. For God has said through Moses, I have borne and nourished thee, even as a mother her child. Deuteronomy 1:31. How does a mother nourish her child? First, she feeds it with milk, then gruel, then eggs and soft food. If she weaned it and at once gave it the ordinary coarse food, the child would never thrive. So we should also deal with our brother, have patience with him for a time, suffer his weakness, and help him bear it. We should give him milk food, too, as was done with us, until he likewise grows strong, and thus we do not travel heavenward alone, but bring the brethren, who are not now on our side, with us. If all mothers were to abandon their children, where would we have been? Dear brother, if you have suckled long enough, do not at once cut off the breast, but let thy brother be nourished also. I would not have gone so far as you have done if I had been here. What you did was good, but you have gone too fast. For there are also brothers and sisters on the other side who belong to us and must still be won. Let me illustrate. The sun has two properties, light and heat. No king has power enough to bend or guide the light of the sun. It remains straight in the place where it shines. But the heat may be turned and guided, and yet is ever about the sun. Thus the faith must always remain pure and immovable in the heart, never wavering, but love moves and is guided, according as our neighbors may grasp it or follow us. There are some who can run, others must walk, still others can hardly creep. Therefore, we must not look upon our own, but upon our brother's powers, so that he who is weak in faith and attempts to follow the strong may not be destroyed of the devil. Therefore, dear brethren, obey me. I have never been a destroyer, and I was also the very first whom God called to this work. Neither can I run away, but must remain as long as it pleases God. I was the first, too, to whom God revealed it, to preach his word to you. Moreover, I am sure that you have the pure word of God. Let us, therefore, take up this matter with fear and humility, cast ourselves at one another's feet, join hands with each other, and help one another. I will do my part, which is no more than my duty. For I love you even as I love my own soul. For here we battle not against pope or bishop, but against the devil. And do you imagine he is asleep? He sleeps not, but sees the true light rising, and to keep it from shining into his eyes, he will make a flank attack. And he will succeed, if we are not on guard. I know him well, and I hope, too, that with the help of God I am his master. But if we yield him but an inch, we must soon look to it how we may be rid of him. Therefore all those have erred, who have consented and helped to abolish the Mass, in itself a good undertaking, but not accomplished it in an orderly way. You say it was right according to the Scriptures. I agree. But what becomes of order? For it was done in wantonness, with no regard to proper order, and with offense to your neighbor. If, beforehand, you had called upon God in earnest prayer, and had obtained the aid of the authorities, one could be certain that it had come from God. I, too, would have taken steps toward the same end, if it had been a good thing to do, and if the Mass were not so evil a thing, I would introduce it again, for I cannot defend your action, as I have just said. To the papists and the blockheads, I could defend it, for I could say, how do you know whether it was done with good or bad intention, since the work in itself was really a good work? But I can find nothing to reply to the devil. For if on their deathbeds the devil reminds those who began this affair of texts like these, every plant which my Father hath not planted shall be rooted up, Matthew 15:13, or I have not sent them, yet they ran. Jeremiah 23:21. How will they be able to withstand? He will cast them into hell. But I have a weapon to brandish in the devil's face, so that the wide world will become too small for him. I know that in spite of my reluctance, I was regularly called by the council to preach in this place, and I would that you should have the same assurance as I. You could so easily have consulted me about the matter. I was not far away from you that you could not reach me with a letter, especially since I did not interfere with you in any way. Did you want to begin something and then leave me to shoulder the responsibility? That is more than I can undertake, and I will not do it. Here one can see that you have not the Spirit in spite of your deep knowledge of the Scriptures. Take note of these two things, must and free. The must is that which necessity requires, and which must ever be unyielding, as, for instance, the faith, which I shall never permit anyone to take away from me, but which I must always keep in my heart and freely confess before everyone. But free is that in which I have choice, and may use or not, yet in such wise that it profit my brother and not me. Now, do not make a must out of what is free, as you have done, so that you may not be called to account for those who were led astray by your exercise of liberty without love. For if you entice anyone to eat meat on Friday, and he is troubled about it on his deathbed, and thinks, "Woe is me, for I have eaten meat and I am lost," God will call you to account for that soul. I would like to begin many things, in which but a few would follow me. But what is the use? I know that those who have begun this thing, when it comes to the point, cannot maintain themselves, and will be the first to retreat. How would it be if I brought the people to the point of attack, and though I had been the foremost to exhort others, I would then flee and not face death with courage? How the poor people would be deceived! Let us, therefore, feed others also with the milk which we have received, until they, too, become strong in the faith. For there are many who are otherwise in accord with us, and who would also gladly accept this one thing, but they do not yet fully understand it. All such we drive away. Therefore, let us show love to our neighbors, or our work will not endure. We must have patience with them for a time, and not cast out him who is weak in the faith. Much more should we regulate our doing and our not doing according to the demands of love, provided no injury is done to our faith. If we do not earnestly pray to God and act circumspectly in this matter, the thing looks to me as if all the misery which we have begun to cause the papists will all be upon us. Therefore I could no longer remain away, but was compelled to come and say these things to you. This is enough about the Mass. Tomorrow we shall treat of the images.